Well, good evening, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Trail podcast, brought to you by good old Jester Wallis Productions. And what would a Jester Wallis live production be without a little snafu? So sorry for us being late this evening. But I am one of your hosts, Julie Gayhart, and I have the amazing Austin Wallis right here beside me. Austin, how
What's
are
up,
you?
folks? A little frazzled, but we're good now.
I was never frazzled. I knew we would figure it out.
Well, it's just one of those things where, like, when in doubt, literally just unplug it and plug it back in, and that worked. I had an issue with my mic where it wasn't showing up for my computer, so literally just unplugged it, plugged it back in, and it magically showed back up. And then earlier, so the way we do it for these director's cut series podcasts is I share my screen with Julie, and then Julie's the one that actually broadcasts it, but I have to share the sound as well. And it wasn't working, even though we did the exact same thing we did last time. And I literally all I did was log out of Zoom, close the program, open the program back up, log back in, and it magically worked. So I don't know. We're good. We're
Well,
rolling. We're
yeah, we're
rolling.
rolling. This is where we are, and maybe one of these days, we will do a behind the scenes or a director's cut on what our screens actually look like. I am running multiple programs here. We're using Ecamm Live. Typically, Austin would come on as a guest within Ecamm Live, but now we're having to utilize Zoom as well so Austin can properly share his screen. So all of these technical glitches, we will eventually work it out, but I am truly excited about our director's cut series in general. This is episode number 2. If you all missed episode number 1, I encourage you to go back and actually watch that episode. That was a deep dive into one of our interviews that impacted both of us greatly with Elizabeth Clements. And then this evening for our director's cut episode number 2, we are going to dive into the interview that we called the Roundtable discussion. And Austin, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of set the scene. I'm going to pull this picture up here and kind of let you set the stage. It looks like I'm just sitting back chilling, drinking some coffee, but maybe introduce who these guys are and kind of what you had to do to set up this scene.
So, yeah, this was kind of a I don't know what you want to call it. This is what we came up with because the three gentlemen that we've got on this roundtable interview is what we call it, are very strong personalities, just amazing individuals. So on the far left, we've got retired Sheriff Greg Christopher, the Haywood retired Haywood County Sheriff. In the middle is Mike Street, who is the Haywood County Search and Rescue Team Director. And then on the far right is Greg Shuping, who is the Director of Emergency Services retired for Haywood County. So we got some heavy rollers. And so some of them were not crazy about being interviewed. And so this
I
was
think
kind
I
of
think
the,
Mike would say he was not crazy about being interviewed. The
and
gentleman
so,
in the middle, yes.
yeah. And Mike, as you'll see, if you haven't watched Safe and Found already, you'll see Mike a lot. You'll see a lot of footage from this interview in there because they talked about all kinds of stuff. But it was a way for us to get these guys on camera and talk. And honestly, it turned out way better than any individual interview we could possibly do because the way they interacted with each other and then would like spur each other on with, hey, you remember that? Oh yeah, that was great. And then that would spur another, 5, 10 minutes of dialogue. So it was really cool. Um, as a uh, as the camera guy, it made my head explode because for every interview we did, if it's just a single person, I had two cameras, one essentially just two angles, but it was a kind of a fail safe in case one camera died. Camera camera died or a memory card corrupted or anything like that, still got at least something of the interview, so it's not a complete loss. And so for this one, we're interviewing three people simultaneously. And so each person has their own individual angle. So they've each person has their own camera, and then there's a wide angle shot. So four cameras total. And then Julie set everybody up with mics, and so there was just a whole bunch of technology going on in this one. Um, and the real joy was afterwards putting it all together into one timeline so that we can manage it. And so it was a little tedious, but now that it's all in a nice smooth timeline, it's no big deal. But getting it organized was a thing. So
Yeah, and that interview, once you got everything set up, and I felt really bad that morning. Nancy East and I, we did this interview. Let me pull this picture back up. That interview is the back of her house on her beautiful deck. And she so graciously opened her home for us. And while you were running around setting up the cameras, hauling all the equipment, Nancy and I were hobnobbing with everybody that was showing up that day. And next thing I know, Austin's like, all right, come on, let's go over here, get the mics on. We're ready to go. So one of the things that I try to do and I get really nervous too, right when I'm getting ready to interview people, especially for Safe and Found, especially these three gentlemen, I really want to make sure that they're going to have really good conversation. So I was kind of hobnobbing with them, getting, them comfortable. Not that they're not comfortable with each other already. We were the oddballs, the outliers in this situation, but really to get Mike comfortable as well and get the three of them interacting together. And it was really fun to sit down and watch them do that. And I'm going to flip the screen here and get it over to your screen, Austin. And I see there you've got the cameras up.
Oh yeah. No, I was just as a camera nerd, I took a picture. This was a picture I took the night before when I was prepping all the gear because I was like, I've never had four cameras running at once. And so two of these are rentals. I just rented two of the ones on the bottom. But yeah, it was just like, goodness gracious, I got a lot of technology going on. So it was fun. It was definitely a test, but definitely fun. So
I think it tested us too because we knew who we had coming over.
Yeah.
And we knew that we had an hour of their time because you don't want to take more time up than what people, not that they weren't willing to give, and they did give well over an hour. So, while we're getting ready for this, we want to make sure they're comfortable with each other. We want to make sure that we are cognizant of their time. And we knew we had interviews after that. So, and we had people coming at certain times over to Nancy's house. So I think you and we were amped up a little bit for sure that day. So, to say the least.
Definitely busy.
And maybe we'll get into this too. I think later you and I actually got like car sick or something that afternoon.
Was that the same day?
I think so. Yeah. And
Yeah,
we'll get into that in another episode. So, but after we got the footage and, just like we showed last week with Elizabeth's interview, Austin, amazing work on putting this huge timeline together. So do you want to talk about your process of doing this again and the different process of three people now?
Yeah. So the way that we talked about this a little bit in the first episode, but the way we kind of brought order to the chaos was once I had all of the different camera angles and all the different mic inputs and everything like that, all imported into Final Cut Pro, and I created what's called a multi-cam clip in Final Cut Pro. And essentially that allows you to combine a bunch of different inputs into one clip, and then Final Cut Pro will then allow you to switch between inputs relatively easily. But it's a little tedious to begin with. So once that part was done, then I could create what we called a rough cut, essentially, and it was um, just a rough draft of the video itself for the interview. And then comes the process of actually listening to it from start to finish and breaking it down um, into these little chapters, for lack of a better term. And so what we would do with these blocks is once I had this whole thing mapped out, then we could start taking these puzzle pieces and start putting them into the film itself. So we build the storyline of the film.
And this was
Uh,
really
so yeah,
hard because there were so many nuggets of gold. I mean, their
yeah,
entire interview, we have talked multiple times about just putting this interview out on our Jester Wallis Productions
yeah.
YouTube channel. And I'm still not convinced we won't, even though we are sharing Never Say Never with me and Austin.
Yeah.
It's just so good. The full interview is just so good. And it was even hard right now to pick out, what we wanted to show you all this evening.
Yeah, and so like you can see it went on this interview went on for an hour and a half. So lots of talking. And so the green blocks are essentially the color that I assigned just for general interviews for the storyline for the film. But I highlighted these in blue because that's what we're going to look at tonight. So it just kind of gives you an idea that we are just scratching the surface of this interview. But again, if you've watched Safe and Found, you've probably seen some of these other ones because you can see they talk about the Snow Boys. They talk about there was one rescue that didn't make the film, and I don't think we even talk about it tonight. But there was a guy out hunting bears and got caught on the side of a cliff, and so they had to rescue this guy off the side of a cliff. Um, but it's you can just see there's so much that they talk about, and it was really humbling to
Yeah.
because again these are the guys, like, the sheriff is the top law enforcement uh, in the whole county, like, and then you've got the director of emergency services and then the director of the search and rescue team. So like these are the guys making those decisions. Um, and it really gives you an appreciation for, um, and I think Mike even says it in the interview, like the front side of a search. It's not the cool stuff where you got the rappelling gear or you're out in the woods or anything like that. Um, it's coming up with a plan, figuring out where to start, and then from there where to go. And so it was very humbling, and it gave me a huge appreciation for all the work that goes into a search, all the logistics and everything like that. So that's where these guys really made their money. So
And really, the beauty of the three of them together, we should say this does not happen in every county like this.
no,
Where these individuals, when you have the sheriff and the director of, the entire EMS services, they all have a mission and how they're going to support the county. And we were told up front, not every county operates like this. So again, that made it just that much more special having them sit there
yeah,
outside on at a table, we're all drinking coffee and hanging out together. So very special moment.
good times.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna switch back over here. Um, so the first clip we'll talk about was, and Julie, I may have actually included your voice in this part, but
Oh
what
no.
does the what does the process of a search look like? And so, like, what is the beginning of that search look like? How does that come in? And so they talk about it a little bit, um, and it shows you how something small like a 911 call grows into this massive process. So, anything else, Julie, before we start?
No, I say let's roll it. This is good stuff. This
My
is
name is Greg Christopher. I am the
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
no worries, Austin.
you. All right, here we go.
Here we go.
name is Greg Christopher. I am the retired sheriff from Haywood County. I was the sheriff from 2013 to 2022.
Mike Street. I work for Haywood County EMS, but my volunteer job is I'm the director for the search and rescue team for the county.
Greg Shuping, Emergency Services Director of Haywood County, retired. Retired after 30 years, 20 of that as Director of Emergency Services, which included emergency management, EMS, and other things.
So let's start off, and don't worry about looking at the cameras either. You guys just look at me or each other. Let's start off with Sheriff. You get a call, you get a 911, something happens, and the process of what happens. I'm assuming that the sheriff is going to be the first sync of if something happens, besides the Park Service. Maybe they get a call. And just keep in mind as you're explaining this, and as you guys talk together, an audience will be watching this, trying to clarify, oh, this is how this all goes down.
The sequence of events.
The sequence of events of what happens, not specifically David's call, but a call in general.
Okay.
And Sheriff, we'll have you kick that off.
Okay. So here in Haywood County, we have the Emergency Operations Center, our 911 center, that is located within the sheriff's office. So that's part of the sheriff's responsibility. And normally, when people do not return to their vehicle, or people do not make a phone call to tell somebody that they are back out of the woods safely, then the family gets concerned, and of course the first thing they do is call 911 to report that that their loved one or their someone that they are close to is missing, and that starts a phone call from the EOC to the sheriff's office to our own duty sergeant, who will then, after some legwork and some investigation, just initially, then that's when the sheriff will get the phone call if they don't come out of the woods relatively quickly, and then I will pick up the phone and call the guys like Greg Shuping,
Okay.
and I'll explain what we have and go from there.
So Greg, you get a phone call. You get a phone call from the sheriff.
Well, yeah, there's a sequence of events that occurs pretty much every time, and it also has to do with the jurisdiction of where we're going. And we in Haywood County, we have a lot of federal lands, and those federal lands are divided into jurisdictions as well, from the Blue Ridge Parkway to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the United States Forest Service. So if the person is likely lost on Forest Service land, that requires a little unique response as opposed to the Great Smokies, and the Smokies being from the Department of the Interior, a signatory of their own search and rescue plan. And so a lot of times if it's a national park, they just forward the call, to the Great Smokies, and we become an assisting agency as opposed to the primary response agency there. And but in most, I think Mike would agree, by and large, the large amount of search and rescue that's done in Haywood County is on U.S. Forest Service land, and that makes the sheriff the primary responsibility. But then they work obviously directly with Mike and the search and rescue team here in the county. They're the initial responders that go out and do that.
So somebody calls 911, the sheriff is involved. Now you've called EMS.
And really and truly, the plan is not even to call us primarily, because we want to cut out the middleman, so to speak. I think our job was to help create the plan. And so the plan is that the sheriff's office gets the call, they do the initial investigation, but then they go directly with the search and rescue team and maybe even that local fire department to respond together in a trio of agencies to do that initial search and rescue.
And Mike, you being the director of Haywood County Search and Rescue, whether you get that call, whatever route that comes through, you know multiple people are probably already involved.
Right.
What happens when you get that call?
So we have a search urgency form. So sometimes we get to talk to these people on the phone. Sometimes we get 30 seconds on the phone with them, right? Because cell coverage is not everywhere up here. So in the dispatch center, there's a search urgency form, and they try to get as much data as they can to at least get us going. And it's very simple, you know, hey, are you hiker? What gear do you have with you? What was your planned route? What's your name, birthday? Just all the one sheet. Let me ask you as many questions, yes, no, mark, mark, mark. His sergeant on duty will usually call me. It's either me or a couple other people, whoever's on call, and start making those decisions of how urgent is this, right? Is it worth going out at 2 o'clock in the morning, or is it let's wait till daylight? Is it an overdue hiker versus, hey, I've broke my leg and it's an actual rescue? Like, there's lots of things that go into it and lots of ways to kind of decipher down of, do we need to respond right now? Because there's an inherent risk when you do it, right? Especially at night. You know, night ops throw everything up as far as danger. Not that we don't want to do it, but we don't want to hurt ourselves. And so, like, we have these conversations of, hey, this is an overdue hiker, not familiar with the area, probably misjudged how long it's going to take them to go hiking. Maybe we wait till the morning when we got daylight on our side, then we start seeing what's going on, versus, hey, they've already been missing for 2 days. They have no supplies with them. Like, it creates urgencies. Is it snowing? Is it 70 degrees outside, or is it 10 degrees outside? So, like, we start factoring in all of these things of whether do we respond right now, or do we have a delayed response? And once we have come up with that plan, it's a discussion with my guys, his folks, fire department, and like, it's kind of the joint effort of, do we agree we need to go now, or do we need to kind of just put somebody sitting on their car and let's wait till the morning to when we got a little more with us. So once we make those decisions, the data gathering still keeps going. And so law enforcement, that's, you know, technically, like in the state of North Carolina, agency having jurisdictions in charge, which is the sheriff. In most of the places we go, they still keep investigating. Like, the investigating's not over, right? So if we can start coming up with a timeline, you start profiling people. We know the area, just as far as where people make bad choices. And a lot of it, and this is not unique to Haywood, it's kind of everywhere. There's trails that you can buy a map to, and the trails are on the map. And then there's 40 other trails that aren't on a map because people have just created these user trails. So they create decision points, and it can get really confusing, especially if you're not proficient. Technology is getting better. Initially, we were having lots of problems with some of the apps that you can get that had to have cell phone coverage to work accurately. And that's changed over the last few years, but that caused a lot of havoc for us of people not realizing the world is not completely covered in cell service. And you're talking about a county that's roughly 55% land mass.
Yeah, over 50% federal property.
Yeah, it's federal property, and there aren't cell towers in there. And
So Haywood County is over 50%
federal land, whether it's interior, whether it's national park or U.S. Forest Service. We don't have BLM land over here, but there is half of our county is in federal holdings of some department and undeveloped natural.
So once everybody puts their stamp, this is what we need to do, you still have the individual that's either out, you couldn't talk about, they're still injured. One of the things we really want people, this is not, you're operating fast, but you still have protocols. What are time frames on this? From the time it comes to you, you might chat with him, it gets to him, and then you hit the button and dispatch your team. What time frames are we talking here? On just a general case, something.
I would say realistically, from when the first call comes in to the button gets pushed, you know, decisions made, button gets pushed, probably, depending on acuity, anywhere from a half an hour, 15 minutes to 45 minutes.
That's fast.
And then you've got drive time, right? I mean, so you're looking at another hour. It technically probably takes us an hour and a half to get up to an area operation.
At the initial planning
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, we've got mileage too. We don't have double secret, but, you know, being able to fly to places and all that neat stuff. We got curvy roads, and you can run emergency traffic. Still going to take you 45 minutes to get there. I mean, like this is a rural county. You know, we're a growing county, but it's a rural county.
One of the cool things that came out during this interview was that Mike, the guy pictured here, has a photographic memory. And so when Julie, you talked about, or you referenced it just now in the interview, but he would literally get people on the phone that are lost in the woods and start, hey, what do you see? Where, you know, what do you hear? And then he would figure out where they were because he was so familiar with the area and the trails and all these decision points. Because he's 100% right. Because what was interesting was my brother and I, when we were hiking segment 2 of the Mountains of Sea Trail through Haywood County, through the Shining Rock Wilderness, we got lost. And I like to think that my brother and I are relatively decent navigators when it comes to hiking and wilderness and everything like that. And we got turned around, and it took us probably a solid hour to figure ourselves out. And that's with knowing what to do. So it's super easy to get confused with all these extra trails that aren't on the map anywhere. But Mike, so familiar with it, was literally able to talk people out of the wilderness. Okay, at the next intersection, you're going to turn left. You're going to see a tree with 3 branches pointing upward, you know, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he has rescued many people that way and saved, you know, a lot of people coming out just by walking them out on the phone. And I think, you know, when we were at the training event and when we were seeing these guys at different places, they would joke about that. Like, hey, let's get Mike on the phone. He can walk about. But you're right. He does have that photographic memory and the knowledge of these 3 gentlemen. I could just sit here and listen to them again and again and again because you're combining years and years of knowledge and experience. And another behind the scenes thing, the first thing I hear is the audio. I'm like, oh my God, that audio.
Well,
and the work that had to be done just with the audio in the film. So we've gotten a lot better with our audio since Safe and Found. But that's the first thing I hear. I'm like, oh my God, we could have hooked them up with some way better mics. But yeah, just to have again, I'm pinching myself, you know, that we had the privilege to do this, quite honestly. And, you know, I have not watched this particular interview in quite some time. And I just enjoy hearing what these gentlemen have to say.
Well, and just talking about sound. So everything that we're watching in these director cut series is the raw footage. So it's not color corrected. There's nothing, the sound has not been adjusted at all. And so that's kind of intentional, really. One, because we kind of like showing what it looks like, you know, when it comes out of the camera. But 2, it's just more labor than I'm willing to put forth.
Yeah, don't do that now. Don't put the labor forth. We've already put a lot of labor forth in the film itself. So no, I think it's cool. I love this kind of stuff. And, you know, really showing people, you know, what it takes because, you know, it's the time and energy to set up the interviews in the initial process. Then it's the brain power that it takes to come up with, to ask these gentlemen, you know, the cameras, the renting of the cameras, you know, and that's one of the reasons that we wanted to do this is quite honestly, we're a 2-person team, you know, making this happen. And none of this would have happened without Nancy and the collaboration with the Haywood County Search and Rescue team. But I could go on and on about these gentlemen, but I know we have more behind the scenes from them.
So the next one is it's a story about a rescue that didn't make the final cut of the film, but the rescue of Julie Hayes. And so this one was interesting because, again, it was one of those that if we had interviewed each of these guys separately, may never have come up. They may never have ever talked about it. But it was because of the interaction between the three of them. They ended up talking about this on their own without us even asking them. And I thought it was so cool. And I was bummed that it didn't quite fit the storyline for Safe and Found. But it was really cool because it was and I won't try to talk too much more about it, but there's a very emotional moment that they talk about, and I'll just start playing.
There's
The
nothing more
educational-
fulfilling than
yeah.
giving your time to serve others.
Yeah. I think one of the things that Nancy,
Julie Hayes giving you a hug at
Yeah.
the sheriff's office.
Yeah, boy.
It's like one of my top three things that happened to me in my entire career.
You're not kidding. Or for me to tell her husband,
For you to have
Hey.
that opportunity to stand
Oh,
there and
man.
tell him,
hey, let me tell you, as soon as that radio crackled, and I stepped out of that trailer, and there he stood, and he'd been sleeping in his car, what little bit he'd
For 3
been
days.
sleeping for 3 days, and for me to tell him that, he grabbed a hold of me, and
This is the Julie
the
Hayes.
yes, the Hayes search.
That was
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That one was big.
she's the one that fell the tree. It was like,
She hikes to the top of Cold Mountain and says, "Phew, I'm wore out." Leans up against a tree and falls off the north face of a mountain
tree rod.
and lays there for 3 days with fractures and hypothermia and everything else
She was a hot one, I
for
guess,
dead.
'cause
She's there for dead.
I had left when worked my EMS shift. He called me and was like, "Hey," I said, "Yes." He said, "We found her. Great. She's hurt. You mind hiking in there?" And
what do we do?
she was a hot. Yeah, it was the dog that caught the squirrel. We're like, "Is she breathing?"
Hey, this is a very short story. You'll
No,
be here
you
all
guys
day.
go
You'll be
for
here
it.
all day with us. But we searched for 3.5 days, and the investigation went well.
how
The
did you guys
investigators-
find out about this? If she was,
So the investigators by now on day 3, we've got a 1-800 hotline. We're in the media. Please, somebody tell us something.
From the husband, I believe, of "Hey, my wife."
Yeah, she's an assistant DA in Tennessee, and so she's like 3 days out. Matt Shell, I believe, is running the investigation, and after day 3, we're looking for anybody that knows anything. Just tell us something. Said Julie Hayes walked by me and spoke to me, petted my dog, and I said, "Great." He said, "There's one more thing. She never come back."
She never came off. There's a spur trail that goes at Deep Gap, the Art Load Trail. There's a spur trail that goes to.
But we
Cold
already
Mountain.
searched up there, and so I said.
So he was the blocker, and he didn't.
Some guy I didn't even know from Fish and Wildlife, Brandon Gillespie and Tanner Boland, walk into the command post and they say,
North Creek.
"There's another trail up there." And I said, "No, there's not. I've been here 30 years. I know everything. I know every trail there is to know." Tanner Boland says, "Well, you don't know this one." And I said, "Can you take them there?" And they took them up there, and she was laying on the north face of Cold Mountain, about a half a mile down.
Up Lenore Creek.
And there was a twist to it because she was an assistant district attorney. It was what could have happened to her if she just happened to run across somebody on the trail because now she may be killed by somebody that recognized who she was in her role as an assistant
So I
DA.
remember I used to have his cell phone. That guy called and he says, Matt Shell says, I'm conferencing you in with this guy right now. And I said, "What do you got?" Because we'd heard everything. We had heard everything from she had been abducted by aliens to all this other stuff. And I said, "What you got?" He says, "I saw Julie Hayes." He camped on the trail, like on it, because it's way out.
Public trail. So that the secondary trail is like a hunting trail that 98% of the public doesn't know about. He said the exact right words.
He said, "She went by me, she petted my dog, she spoke,
Said she was going up top.
and she never come back."
She never came down.
And I went, "Hold on."
And it. I mean, you do the best you can with what you got.
Something that insignificant.
Right.
And he didn't even think enough to call till day three.
Three days in, you get that, and it's a game changer, right? So the only thing we are only as good as the information we get, right? That's why leave a plan is so important, right? And so Facebook stalking happens, and this happened. I mean, we have found people that we have been looking for a day that were in Asheville busking, playing music.
Yes.
I mean, like there are so many facets to this. It's insane. It's crazy, the stuff you go through and that you think you would never do. All of a sudden you're like, I am on social media. I hate it, but the only reason I'm on it is because I can build a profile of you.
You can stalk.
Yeah, as long as your pictures are public, I can tell. It's insane, and I'm not saying that in a creepy way. It actually helps out a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's those little, just that all of a sudden the right piece.
And then to have her come back 3 months, like where she stayed in hospital for how long, Sheriff?
Yeah, she was in hospital.
Yes, lots of fractures, lots of internal injuries. Like, it's bad. And because I took her to the hospital.
Yeah, in fact, they came 3 years in a row afterwards on that particular day that she was found to say thank you to us, her and her husband. Super nice people.
Yes.
You were talking about a hug that you'll never forget from her husband. Before I interrupted you, so if you could go back to what you were saying.
No, it was just the fact that when that radio crackled, they have a positive find, and she is alive, because I think everybody around the command post had been prepping him for the fact that we may find her, but it's not going to be the results that we would want to come out and tell him. And whenever that happened, and I told him that she was found and she was alive, and he was a smaller gentleman, but he gave me a bear hug like I haven't had probably ever. And it just so happened that one of our media outlets was there and captured that hug, and it was on the front page of our local newspaper. So it was just really neat that came together, and there actually was somebody there to capture that. He was very thankful.
Wow.
Well, I'm already getting ready to cry again. I mean, I'm pretty sure I was crying at that point. I cried at a lot of our interviews just because they touched us so deeply and people truly gave of themselves. And now that I'm hearing this again, I have really said, we have got to put this out, Austin. I mean, I don't know. I think I interrupted you. You were getting ready to say something.
No, I was just reacting. It's just incredible. The stories, and and these guys, that's just one story they have.
Yeah.
They're just chock full of knowledge and information and experience. It was a privilege to sit there and listen. At certain points, that's all we did was we just listened.
Yeah. For all three of them to say that hug changed their, their thought process, their careers.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you threw that photo in there. That was great.
It's on the internet. I went and that's how I found it. I just went up on the internet and did some Googling and pulled it off of the internet. But yeah, it was just like the raw emotion there. There's not many pictures like that out there, so it was pretty special for everyone, clearly. So
yeah. And here's another tidbit behind the scenes. We actually tried to find Julie Hayes. We wanted to talk to her and see if she would be open to us coming to interview her. And we tried different avenues, and I think Julie Hayes does not want to be found. So I say good for her. I mean, I'm sure if we really dove like really deep, we didn't want to bother people. And but if she would have responded to us, I would have done everything I could to get an interview with her, to connect her with that story. So never say never on that either.
Right. So for this last clip, this one was one that really spoke to me personally, because I've done a lot military and first responder, and so dealing with post-traumatic stress, dealing with critical incidences. It's something that I manage on a daily basis. And so this next clip talks about how they cope, dealing with these raw emotions, even though this Julie Hayes search was a positive outcome, like there's so much emotion and just the full spectrum of emotions, the anger and exhaustion and sadness and eventually joy and just, so it's just, it drains you as a person. And so I don't know how we ended up on I think Julie, I think you asked the question, like, how do you guys deal with this? And Mike, in true Mike fashion, answered it perfectly. But I also, the real response that cut right through me was Greg's response, and I'm just going to play it now.
How do y'all decompress from this stuff?
Scotch.
3 different answers.
Yeah.
You got
This is the decompression. Talking about it, and it's like everybody on our team, and it's just yesterday they were involved in one and outside of the county. Like, that is the decompression. Hey, what went well? What didn't go well? Like, what could we do better? Like, that's the drive and the focus. It's not like, you talk about responder PTSD and all that exists, but like, that's like on our side of the fence, that's the decompression. What went well? What could we do better? And is there anything we can do to mitigate this before it even becomes an issue? And like, that's the decompression. And we're kind of cheating a little bit in the fact that, like, we didn't, we have a pretty good recovery rate. And like, so decompression is usually a happy decompression, if that makes sense.
I think all of us in life are creating our own YouTube video. And there's a lot of great things that happen in our lives. And there's a lot of terrible things that happen in our lives. And we have to learn internally how to watch that video. And we can't find a pause button, because that's not healthy. Mm-hmm. We have to watch the video whenever it triggers, whenever it starts playing. And we have to learn to fill the gaps, because everybody's videos got voids in it. And what was the sheriff doing when we made that find? Or why didn't I see Mike at this very moment? Or whatever's missing. And that communication between us helps us complete the video. And then we can understand it, and then we can learn to live with it and find positive things in it that can take us through.
You get to add to it, but you don't get to delete it.
Yeah, there's no delete button. You try.
You live it, and you will run yourself stupid trying to find the delete button. Doesn't exist. Quit. Take what you're trying to delete, figure it out, and keep going. Can you do that internally? And sometimes, but sometimes you need people to fill in the gaps.
Man, it's just gospel. That just registered with me really hard. Because it's 100%, and the fact that you use the YouTube videos is a metaphor, but yeah, we all are creating our own YouTube video, and we have to be able to watch it when it comes up. And there's no delete button, there's no pause button, yeah, it really registered with me. And we also tried to capture that in Safe and Found, that psychological aspect of being on a search and rescue team, and we'll actually. One of the other episodes that we're going to do, we're going to show some footage of how it emotionally affects one particular person, and they got pretty emotional on camera with us, and so that was very powerful. So yeah, it affects everybody. Obviously, it affects everybody in different ways. I loved Mike's Scotch.
Yeah, that was, I had the same response that I did exactly at that moment when he answered that. Yeah. So powerful.
It's just awesome.
I think we need to revisit maybe putting out that particular interview. I think we had originally talked at one point that the roundtable discussion would be the interview, that we would put out on our YouTube channel, because there's just so many nuggets of gold. And I know that's more work for you, Austin, but yeah, if y'all want to see the full interview, put it in the chat. If you're watching this after the live, let us know if you'd like to see that full interview. But
it's an hour and a half.
It's an hour and a half. Hey, buckle up. Here we go. But people can watch it. We could put some timestamps on it, and, they could go to particular areas. We've already got one vote by Sister Terry, who would love to see the entire interview. And, we're getting another vote. Tangent says definitely. And I say leave it raw as possible. Leave our voices in there. Stella says, get to work, Austin.
So I see a quote from Dan on Southern Paddler. Have you identified a characteristic of what makes someone a good rescuer? So we actually, the person that talks about or gets emotional in their interview also talks about that, and it's actually I think that part actually made the final cut of being a rescuer. It's there's so many different skills to have. It's hard to just nail it down to one, because these three gentlemen have a very unique skill in that they can look at a situation, a very chaotic situation, and bring order and start identifying problems and then allocating resources to solve those problems. But then there's other people on the team that, they manage ropes, or Nancy that can just hike and hike and hike and hike. Or they have swiftwater rescue skills. That all of these different skills, they all kind of bring them all together. And that's the beauty of the team aspect, is that they all have their own characteristic that makes them special. And then they bring that together, and that's what makes the team special.
And I'm excited for our future episodes as well.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be showing some of the ropes. We're going to be showing some of the skills. And to get back to maybe give a little insight to Southern Paddler's question, in this interview with these three gentlemen, the sheriff, Greg Christopher, says, and I think this did make the film, that you have to have a passion for service.
Yeah.
A fortitude, I think, is the word that he used, a fortitude and a passion for service. So that was we didn't ask him that direct question, but that is one of the things that he said. And he said that more than once in the interview. Talking about the search and rescue team specifically. So it was so cool to see them talking about, not that I want to, see them talk about Julie Hayes, but the interaction and how they got amped up and how they were so excited to find her and to know that she's out there. And that's what we need in a search and rescue team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the passion is just, you can just see it on their faces.
Yeah.
So that there's no, you can't put a price on that. You can't learn that in a book. You can't, learn it in a class. That's just who they are. It's amazing.
And another thing that amps me up for episode number 3, which we will be doing the first week of January. We are committed to doing these once a month. I think it's important, and I'm really proud of this film. As of right now, it has over 18,000 views on our YouTube channel, and it has been shown in multiple venues. It has raised a lot of money, and we just keep going with it. We've entered the film into quite a few festivals. We'll see if we get in for 2025. That's kind of our plan with the film going forward. We had a year window to get that into festivals, and Austin doesn't know how many I've entered them into, but entered it into. But it's quite a few, because I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of the work that we've done and that Austin did for all of the editing and the effects and everything else that goes along with it. And it's really excited me again for this film, seeing these three guys. It's such a cool thing we got to do.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Good times. Good
yeah.
times.
So as we wrap up, first and foremost, thank you to everybody that is in the chat that gave us a shout out, that told us that Austin and I need to put this out on our YouTube channel. And I'm excited about what we're doing. You and I actually have a new project that we are going to be working on actually right after our next episode. That January 3rd, we are heading to a new location, and it's going to be so wild. It's so different than what we've done.
That's how we roll.
So that's how we roll. People have faith in us. I have no idea why. And but I'm excited because, you know, Jester Wallis Productions is a business. We are an LLC. So we are for hire, and, you know, we've been hired for another project that we are going to do for, I can't really say right now. I need to get this individual's permission. So maybe we could tell you all on, I believe it's January the 2nd or the 3rd that we will be on again. So Austin, another great evening. Any final thoughts as we head into the holidays? And, maybe you could share what we're going to actually give everybody a little sneak peek into episode number 3. Do you remember?
Sure. I honestly don't.
While Austin's looking up episode number 3,
Please hold.
If you guys have anything that you would like us to share about filmmaking, about audio, about cameras, about interviewing, about how we set all this up, something that we haven't shared yet that you would like us to share on the next episode, feel free to put that in the comments, reach out to us. Our email is in the description below here on YouTube, and Austin smiled, so I think he's got the answer.
Yeah, I have our little document. So next episode, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be kind of a conglomeration of a few different interviews, but we interviewed a lot of different team members, and so they all have their own personalities and their own takes on things and their own recollections of things, and so we're going to kind of a highlight reel of some of the team members that we got to talk to. So it should be fun.
Well, awesome. So I don't see any more questions in the chat. Y'all, again, thank you for joining us. We're excited about this director's cut. I love these kinds of things, and we're just going to keep it rolling. But in the meanwhile, I hope all of you have an amazing holiday season, and we will see you all at the beginning of the new year. So as always, everybody, be safe out there.
And good times.
Austin, you almost forgot. All right, bye, y'all.